We're going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Barron. Make sure to like and subscribe out there on YouTube. And also make sure to rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. What is going on, Bears fans? The Bears win again against the Cincinnati Bengals. We are 3-0 in the preseason. Let's go. So 3-0, and the Bears win big, 27-3. And as we always do, we're going to break down some of the stats for the Bears upon first watch. Also, we got to talk about Caleb Williams, what he looked like today, but then also talk about just overall impressions and stock up, stock down for the different people that we saw out there, from the starters, backups, and also people at the second half. And last but not least, we got to talk about our bear of the game. And this time around, I have probably the most notes that I've taken, because we saw an entire first half of Caleb Williams, and we saw the ups, we saw the downs, then we saw the ups. And that's why my question out there, I want to know from you, the people, how would you grade Caleb Williams' performance today? So are we thinking that, oh, this is great, this is bad? What is our overall vibe on this? Because to me, it's up and down, right? I definitely think that because it was an up and down day, and we'll definitely talk about it more. But I actually want to start off with this. First off, squeegee, bear down, indeed, everyone. And what I want to start out with is I want to start out with just some of the stats that we have, but also I want to say thank you to Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus, primarily Matt Eberflus, for keeping Caleb Williams out there after 3 straight 3-and-outs. Because that to me is actually something that I really enjoyed seeing. Not the whole 3-and-out thing, but I didn't want Caleb Williams to go and leave after this week and be like, okay, I had a crappy performance. We had 3 straight 3-and-outs, and now what do we have to show? What they did is they said, you know what? Keep him out there. Let him do what he needed to do. And he had 5 different drives. First 3, not good. Next one, got better. And then the final one, you saw some of that Caleb magic. So that was something that I first want to just start the show out and just say, I think that just them keeping him out there was something that was very impressive, because Matt Eberflus, I know a lot of us have questioned, does he know what he's going to be doing in this preseason? Does he know how to develop a quarterback, because he needs the reps? And I thought this was a perfect opportunity, perfect thing that he did to say, you know what? You go out there, you haven't had the greatest game out there, but show us what you have and do something good, do something big. So I thought that very good from Matt Eberflus. But let's talk a little bit about the stats, because we always got to break down the stats first. So if we're looking at just the simple passing statistics from a passing standpoint, even though that Caleb Williams had an up and down game, he finishes 6 of 13 for 75 yards and sacked 1 time. QB rating of 64.6. And then Bagent really having a great game, 7 of 8, 87 yards and 2 touchdowns for QB rating of 151. And then we're also talking about the running game. Not as great as we're accustomed to seeing, 3.8 yards on the ground, but Khalil Herbert leading the way with 5 carries for 31 yards, and Velus, 6 carries for 13 yards. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And then also when you break down the receiving, never mind. I took 2 screenshots of the rushing for those that are watching. But from a receiving perspective, Dante Pettis led the charge with 3 catches for 53 yards. Rome Odunze had 2 targets. 1 should be touchdown and 1 for 45 yards. Other than that, just kind of some sprinkles of catches throughout there. But next thing that I want to talk about before we get into the entire Caleb Williams review, I want to talk about this defense, because this defense only allowed 6 points. And yes, there's backups and other things like that, but I think it speaks to just how this defense is coached. And we've talked about this about training camp. I know a lot of people saying, well, the Bears go against backups sometimes. And when you go against the backups, people that are there are saying, listen, the backups are pretty darn good. This is another game where the Bears allowed less than 10 points. So they only allowed 3 points. But I also want to highlight the number of yards that they gave up. only 144 passing yards, and they sacked him twice. So they sacked him twice so minus 21 yards to that 144 yard total. And then you look at the running game. They only allowed 3.3 yards a carry. No running back got over 4 yards a carry. Only Logan Woodside got over 4, which is a quarterback who scrambled for 7 yards. I just want to pause and just bring that up, that this defense, the backups, the starters, all looking good. Now, if you're a pessimist, you could say, hey, they went against Logan Woodside, right? They're not going against Joe Burrow. But still, you want to see them like they're doing well. If they were giving up lots of yards, then yes, that's when you get more of that concern. But just this defense is playing well as a unit. I really wanted to highlight that. But on the other side, so from a sacks perspective, Kyler Gordon gets a sack, Daniel Hardy gets a sack, and Amen and Reddy Stewart and Carl Jones leading the way with 6 tackles. But let's get into the thing that everybody wants to talk about. Let's talk about Caleb Williams. So I'm seeing everything out there. Just so far, we're at 43% A, 43% B, and 14% C. So kind of a sprinkle of everything out there. And Squeegee saying, I'm glad things weren't perfect. Pride comes before a fall. I like that because I think that is something that is really nice that Caleb is going through. Think about the naysayers of Caleb Williams when the Bears were going to draft him. What did they say? They said, well, the Notre Dame game. They specifically called that out. Remember how he failed and the other games where he didn't do well, he didn't face adversity well, and what did he do? Well, he cried. So since he cried, then he doesn't know how to handle adversity. I thought that this was a really, really, really good opportunity for him to say, listen, it was a bad game. It was a bad start. What did he do? He came back and he was able to do something. So this is the reason why I like preseason. He gets to get this out of his system. He gets to, you can go 3 and out 3 straight drives, and then you can come back and do more. And now you have this. Now you have this game under your belt. Does this mean he'll never struggle again? No. It means that he knows what that struggle feels like. He knows what it feels like to go 0-3, three straight 3 and outs at home in Chicago. And that feeling, and then now if it happens again, you know that you can do more. You know that you can bounce back. And yeah, it wasn't against the starters, but still, it's much more than that. Because if you pull up what Caleb Williams did, right, first drive, and I'm just pulling up my notes on this, the first drive, right, it was an overthrow over to Keenan Allen. Then the second one seemed like it was more of a designed kind of like one of those weird like Matt Nagy plays where you kind of give it to the tight end, but he was more going out to the right-hand side, looks back to Gerald Everett, and then throws it back. I'm curious if like he had to throw it to him because I felt other people were open. So I don't know the design of that play. That's where us being people that are watching the play and not knowing what the play was, it's like, well, why didn't he throw it to everyone else? Or was it designed that he had to go back to Gerald Everett? So there was that miss, and then there was the miscommunication. So ultimately, that first drive, not great, right? three straight incompletions, not pretty. And then the second one, it was more quick passes, and then you had Gerald Everett kind of sinking in. But all those curl routes didn't go past the first down marker. So to me, it's like, is that more on the play call than anything else? Still was able to complete it to Gerald Everett, but still nothing perfect. Third drive. Now we're talking about a false start. This is when, never mind. So then he has the, later on, they end up going with like the false start and they do the deep ball over to Scott. And when they did the deep ball to Scott, I thought that ball was on the money. I thought that was a good throw. Ultimately, just Scott getting pulled back a little bit and ends up falling down. So good job, Scott, easily selling that to say, hey, let's get 45 yards, and ends up doing that. But Scott falls, and that's ultimately what we end up seeing, and they get 45 yards. Then we fail to capitalize in the red zone. We get a false start. Then after that, Davis lets up a sack. There's a screen to Kari Blasingame, and ultimately that gets blown up. Just gross all around. Nothing that you really want to see out of that, but just not great. There was a good end around to Rome, but then this is when we get to the final drive that we saw of Caleb. And this is the reason why you feel optimistic about it. Because up to that point, I saw someone say, well, Caleb's never thrown out of the pocket. Caleb has made throws out of the pocket. Or inside of the pocket. We've seen this. Now, the only thing that you don't see it like on the highlight films. You don't see the giant bombs on the film, which eventually you'll be able to see, but it's the special stuff that he is able to do. So what I mean by this is when you look at the last drive that he had, I noted down in my notes that he's just getting the ball out fast. And that's something that you love to see, that we've talked about. Caleb needs to get that ball out. He was throwing it fast, throwing it quick. And then one of the things that I think a lot of people forget, there was one play that that Caleb ends up checking to a pass, or checking from a pass over to a run to Khalil Herbert. Khalil Herbert cuts it back and gets all these yards. This is your rookie quarterback checking out of a play and then going with the run play. That's advanced level stuff. I don't know if we saw Justin Fields do that, but we're seeing Caleb Williams do that. Checks to a run and does stuff like that. That is the advanced pieces. And this is where, when you look at a stat sheet, it's not going to tell the full story, because what you're seeing is him identifying what's going on and switching out of a play. And then we see the magic happen. Then we see him roll out. We see him throw it over to Rome Odunze. Then we forgot. I was rewatching it. There's another play that he kind of escapes out and kind of jumps. Now, on that play, he should have actually set his feet a little bit more, and then he would have been able to drive it over to Gerald Everett. He ends up kind of just wailing it, goes in between two players. But then you see just the magic with Rome Odunze in the back corner of the end zone. You got to make that play. You got to make that in the back corner. Ends up just being right out of bounds, and ultimately we saw what happened. But you see what Caleb Williams is able to do. Caleb does not want to run the football. He does not want to. He says it, and you see it on his tape. When we were breaking him down, we were saying this guy does not want to run. He's always looking downfield. Why? Because he doesn't want to turn into a runner. And you saw that today, where play breaks down, goes out to the side, is constantly looking downfield. That's the big difference out of all the quarterbacks that we've had. He's always looking downfield, always looking to make a play. And even when he runs that touchdown in, he's constantly looking downfield. And you could tell he's like, I don't want to run this. You could tell that he doesn't want to run it in. But then he ultimately goes up, and he must have told Tevin, like, just block, just run. Ends up running it in for a touchdown. Just the things that you see there, it's just the special. And I was reading an article by PFF, which it was a person that covers the NFL, not just someone that covers the Bears. And I had the exact quote. Let me see if I can actually grab this. But what he was saying was, and actually I don't have it up in front of me, but it was to the tune of, elite does not describe what we saw out of him during that drive. And he said 2 big time throws is what he saw from a PFF perspective, but that's something that you just don't see. And what I love was just how he said elite doesn't cover what we saw out of Caleb Williams during that drive, because it's much more than just the stats, much more than just the stat box. Yes, 6 of 13 doesn't look good. And I'll tell you, people are going to probably look at this and go, man, Caleb sucked. Man, Caleb was bad. And yeah, at the beginning, we didn't look great. If he had a full game, you would probably see this kind of even out, because he was bad at the very first, portion. Like it didn't look good. And then if he had played a full game, yeah, you'd probably start to see it even out. But you just saw those glimpses. You saw that greatness out of this player, and you can definitely be excited. I would not be hanging my head today if I was a Bears fan, because I am. But I agree with what we have out in the chat. 29% say A, 59% say B, 12% say C. I give it a B, right? If I could, I would say, because you saw the highs. You saw it out there. Yet again, this is preseason. And this is exactly what we wanted to see. If you're not going to look good, you better capitalize and look good later on. And he did that, and he checked that box. So kudos to Matt Eberflus for keeping him out there, and just exciting things out of this quarterback, checking out and going into a run play, making these high profile plays. And yeah, and yet again, he still made plays from the pocket. Like, I kind of want to put together a clip of like, hey, here's him actually in the pocket, making passes, making quick decisions. He can do this, but it's those things outside of structure that really, really, really make him special. Also, Squeegee saying the first half almost looked like an Iowa game. Yeah, lots of defense and punts. Yeah, that's really it. And Squeegee also saying seemed like Caleb heated up when he went off script. I think that's where he thrives, right? Because he can kind of do whatever he wants out there and just really, that's when you see his arm talent really take off. And yet again, if there's someone listening that is like, well, it was against backups. Well, yes, but when you look at the context of the throws, the context of the decision-making, where he's able to put that, that's where it's special. That's where it goes next level, where him dropping the dime into Rome Odunze's hands, that's something that not every quarterback can do. Not many quarterbacks can do. And I believe Tyreek Hill even mentioned, like, yeah, he reminds you of Mahomes. Like, this is the Mahomesian stuff that you see. This is why he gets the Aaron Rodgers comps. And actually, I have, my family, all Bears fans. We had a little family chat. Someone's like, that whole thing where he goes out to the outside. When Caleb Williams in the red zone rolls out to the right, and then he kind of like run, because you see he kind of tucks it, like kind of runs a little bit, then kind of pulls off the gas, then runs again just to kind of fake out the defender and then throw it right in the back. They're like, that looked like Aaron Rodgers. That looks like something that Aaron Rodgers would do to us and do it constantly. So it's nice that we have someone that can do that, that can play where, hey, if something breaks down, he's going to make you pay. But he can still run the offense. He can still run the basic things. And what you're seeing is just all that talent. So I could talk about Caleb Williams for, this entire show and just reiterate the same points over and over again. But ultimately, Caleb Williams really liked it. Just really, really liked what we saw out there. And Sweaty Shorts, what is good, my friend? Saying the offense is working with Caleb's strengths. We didn't see that with Getsy. Yeah. And I think too, I was listening to another show, like a sports betting show, where it's these people that just dive really, really far deep into the analytics. And they're talking about Caleb Williams specifically. And they're like, the reason why they love Caleb Williams and the reason why Caleb Williams is such a good, why they're like, this guy is the real deal. And when they were looking at him, even in USC, they're like, he's so good in structure. But people don't believe that. They were actually mad at him last year at USC, like the betting people, because they were saying, they're like, he needs to just stay in structure and do more plays in structure because he's so good when he just plays in structure because he knows where to throw the football. He knows where to go. And that's why the ceiling is so high, because we see these out of structure plays that he's able to do elite stuff. But in structure, he can still do this. And I think the in structure throws too will just come more naturally to him, which we're starting to see. And also it sounds like that's the way it has been also at training camp. So Caleb review over. I'll still probably bring it up a little bit later, but let's talk some overall impressions. We haven't even gone through overall impressions yet, and I still have like a bunch of keys. So a couple things. The throw, like I said, Matt Eberflus, keeping them all in. That was something that I really admired. So that was one of my big takeaways. And then, this is the quote. So from a PFF writer saying, elite doesn't do the drive justice, with Williams notching 2 big-time throws on the series. Just cool to kind of have that. But then also, too, another piece that I want to bring up, something that I wanted to note, Austin Booker out there on 3rd down and Walker playing in the inside. This is something that we've been calling for on this show, something that we want to see out there, and we saw it. And also, DeMarcus Walker had a good breakup on a draw play. I think it was like the third down that they rolled out that group. And DeMarcus Walker, like I've said, is a better interior player than he is exterior. And I love the idea of putting him on the inside on those 3rd downs. I just think that's the smartest move to get your best 4 defensive linemen out there at that time, and having Austin Booker on that outside too, just because he has been wrecking havoc. So something that I like to see. Also, like I already mentioned, defense has been looking good. And then last little bits, I like the depth at safety. Elijah Hicks, I thought, played very well today. Jonathan Owens, I thought, looked really good today too. He made a very, very good coverage stop in the first drive or second drive that the defense had, first or second drive. But just overall, the defense has been good, and I like the safety depth because We didn't have that last year, and Brisker has been quietly banged up a decent amount. He wasn't out there today. I love Brisker, but it was nice to see more of that safety depth, because even when there was a play that TJ Edwards actually over pursued a little bit, and then what we saw was Hicks kind of coming in and making the play, and then you saw Owens just kind of pop the guy. This is what we never really saw with Hicks last season. Elijah Hicks was not a good run stuffing safety, but we're seeing him get more in the box, getting his head into the holes and popping some people. So really, really like this depth at safety, and I wanted to just kind of call that out. But speaking of depth, our slot corners looked really good today. Also, J2K, what is good, my friend? Hope you're doing well. But let's talk about these slot corners, because Kyler Gordon, he might be the bear of the game, in my opinion. Kyler Gordon was just so good. And he's just so much fun to watch when he's healthy. Because you just see the speed, you see the quickness, you see the explosiveness, right? When you watch Kyler Gordon explosive at corner, that's what he is. He's just an explosive corner that's just so much fun to watch, where he can fly around, make the tackles, and just make the big plays. That was something that just really, really so much fun to watch, because he can stop the person in their tracks in coverage, but also when it's a running play, he was able to make that. And I think he had 2 tackle for losses, 1 sack, and 4 tackles, but just a really good game from Kyler Gordon. Yeah, 2 tackle for losses, 1 sack, 1 quarterback hit, 4 tackles. Kyler Gordon just balled out and just flying everywhere. And that's what we want to see out of him, taking that next step. And really, that's how you can escalate this secondary. But then not only Kyler Gordon, we saw Josh Blackwell play well. I thought Josh Blackwell had a phenomenal game in special teams, in actual coverage of special teams. In returning, I thought he did a pretty good punt return. And then on defense, he was flying everywhere. He also flew in and almost got the sack, but caused the interception. I thought that he had a phenomenal game. And you're talking about these guys, and even Greg Stroman. I thought Greg Stroman had a good game. So I wanted to highlight just the whole nickel corner that we have. Just very, very, very good backups out there. So really, really like that. We got a Spidey in the comments. He's such a fun player. And the whole Spidey thing too, after getting the sack, just spraying webs, so freaking cool. Love it, love it, love it. And speaking about things I love, Greg dropping an F Green Bay in the chat. Got to love that as well. Also, if you're out there, make sure to hit the like button. Helps out the show tremendously. But let's keep going, because the last little overall impression I want to call out before we get into ups and downs. We haven't even gotten into the ups and downs yet, guys. But if we talk about this whole nickel blitz thing, I wanted to bring this up because one of my favorite things, I guess, to cover is what the defensive line is doing. Because I like the whole move, right? When they say move and then they shift the line over. And the nickel blitzes also highlight the importance of just having a disciplined defensive line so that they know where to be, where to play. Because if you notice on those nickel blitzes, what does the defensive line do? On that first nickel blitz with Kyler Gordon, it was so clean. Why? Because I believe it was Montez Sweat. They just literally moved the defensive line all one direction. And then Kyler Gordon can just easily get the sack. And then you saw with the backups, you didn't really have that as much as you did with the starters, but you still saw them try to push them all over. So that's a big difference in disciplined defensive lines, because, hey, this is how we're going to execute this. And that's what was so pretty about the Kyler Gordon sack. Because if you notice, the defensive line all do their shifts so that they're all going down towards the left tackle. And then Kyler Gordon's like, I'll pick up the sack. That's why it was so wide open. And that's why it also worked, because the quarterback is just looking left they just shifted. They just blocked everybody over here. Perfect. And just gets absolutely planted. So all great things. Just absolutely loved what we saw out of the Bears. So just good things with those overall impressions. But now let's talk a little bit about the ups and downs that we had with some of these players. So let me know down in the comments, what starters, out of the starting group for offense and defense, which starters really kind of came out to you that you're like, stock up, stock down? Let me know what y'all think, because I thought it was good. I mean, I thought it was really fun to watch the starters out there, like we've been saying. But I want to kind of talk a little bit about some of the ups and downs. Let's start with the offense, because at first, I literally have in my notes, pass blocking, because I liked the pass blocking at the beginning. But then later on, I didn't really like the whole pass blocking. I felt like the pass blocking started to decline, not really look as good. You're starting to see people like I thought Braxton Jones looked really good at the beginning, but then I thought towards the later end, Braxton Jones really didn't look so good later on. So the pass blocking I liked at the first quarter. I thought that it kind of degraded a little bit into the second quarter, so hopefully we can continue just that looking better, because Nate Davis had some hiccups, had some not great things, but then also I have in my notes too that literally him and Darnell Wright just had two people on it. Like Nate Davis had his guy, Darnell Wright has his guy, and they just stonewalled him. But yet again, that's also pass blocking. You win some, you lose some. But also, I want to highlight one offensive lineman in particular. I know that he had a bad play on the screen pass, but I thought Coleman Shelton had a really good game. And when you're talking about this whole battle of the centers, Coleman Shelton, watch the tape. There's a lot of plays that he's just one-on-one with someone, and he's blocking really well. I was very happy with what I saw out of Coleman Shelton, and it made me feel like, okay, Ryan Bates, like we've said, very good backup in this league and can play all those different positions. Made me feel good, like, hey, keep Shelton at center. Thought he had a good game, just overall played well. But then Greg B also saying too, he liked what he saw out of the Bears O-line. Still not impressing him though. He felt Caleb was pressured a lot. And yeah, that's where I thought second quarter, I thought that the offensive line kind of broke down a little bit more. I thought first quarter, I was like, hey, they're impressive. And then second, I was like, oh, what's going on? But I think that's also the story of Braxton Jones. I like Braxton Jones, but the thing is he'll look elite going against some people where you're like, dang, man, he looks so good. And then all of a sudden you're like, wait, why did you struggle against that guy? Like, come on, like you struggle against that guy? Seriously? And I think that's how it was. Like maybe the third strings come in and he's like, oh man, this third stringer, he's good. And then I thought that he started to kind of cause some troubles. But I did think that Coleman Shelton, though, overall had a very good game. Same thing with Darnell Wright. I thought Darnell Wright had a good game too. But I want to shout out another person, and that's Khalil Herbert. Because guess what? There is tape on him now of him pass blocking. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Khalil Herbert had a pass blocking snap. Go look it up. There was a blitz when Caleb was rolling out. And yeah, Khalil Herbert blocking really well, because that's his Achilles heel. Like we've said, he's a good running back, but he can't pass block, but he pass blocked well. So I'm like, he's got to be on my stock up. But also too, he just gets yards. Like he's not the sexiest running back like we've always say, but 5 carries, 31 yards, 6.2 yards a carry. He had that big 21-yard gain, and it's just him producing, him making good plays. That's what Khalil Herbert does. So I thought, yet again, a good game out of Khalil Herbert. But the bad, we weren't seeing a lot of touchdowns, right? We did not see a lot of scoring out of this first team with the starters on offense. Like we said, 3 and outs. There was a false start. But then also, too, I thought that the run blocking looked a little shaky, too. It might just be because of the Cincinnati Bengals. They're very, very well coached on defense. But the running game was not getting going like we saw. Yet again, Khalil Herbert had to get that 21-yard carry to break that magical 4 yards a carry. But otherwise, you're looking at it, and the running game really didn't get started when you look at the stats. Because you look at it and you go, okay, Rome got something, but that's an end around. Bayless had only 2.2. And so lots of stuff like that. Also, for those that are watching, my light just went out. Now it's back on. So we'll see how this goes on video for right now. But we'll see. So let's get this show on the road and keep talking about the defensive starters. Because the defensive starters, what I'll say about them is, like, obviously, Kyler Gordon, everywhere, good tackles, always constantly doing very good plays. And even on the play that he ended up winning, you still saw that Andrew Billings beat his guy, and still they look good. And that's where I also want to talk about Andrew Billings. Andrew Billings, yes, he's a veteran. Yes, he's not the sexiest name out there. But I thought that Andrew Billings had a very good day today too, because Andrew Billings beat his guy in some pass snaps, and also in the run snaps. There's one where he literally stuck his hand out and just kind of took the guy for a ride and ends up making the good play. He's just a big, strong man. And you really did see that out there. So I thought that Andrew Billings had a very good game today. Also, let me see what else in the comments. Squeegee saying, I think both punters put on a show. Yeah, I agree too. I think that the punters really did look good. Torrey Taylor looked very, very, very good today. There we go. The light going out again. This is going to be fun. But the punters, yeah, I thought had a good game. But then also, let's see. So then, what else? I might even just have to turn off my camera and just go with some of the camera stuff. So let's see what else we got. Defense. Let's pull this up. So from the defensive side of the ball, I'll just keep going with Elijah Hicks. So like I said, Elijah Hicks put his head on in some run plays, looked good there. But then also Gervon Dexter. Gervon Dexter, I'm purposely calling him out because I think some people might say that they were disappointed with Gervon Dexter. I thought that he had some pretty good plays out there, some good block shedding from some plays, and then also kind of shifted some people down the line. So I thought looked pretty darn good. Yet again, he's not dominating people or like going absolutely insane on people. I thought that he had a pretty good game, all things considered. So Gervon, solid. But then if I go to my bad, let's see. So bad, I threw TJ Edwards out there just because I thought that he over pursued a couple times. And then there was that screen pass where the wide receiver was screening someone, and I thought he was just playing off a little bit. Yet again, nothing to be concerned about. It's just the defense played really well. So there was really no negative, no bad things. Montez Sweat also had a really excellent bull rush on a play too. So I thought played pretty darn well, all things considered. But let's see. Yeah, for me, that's the starters. That's the starters overall. So let me know if there's any starters that I might have missed from that group. But I thought it was a pretty good unit. But let's talk a little bit about these backups, because from the backups, let's talk defense. And to start things off, and here I'll pull up the also, let's see. Waldron seemed vanilla today. That's what Shy Drax is saying. Missed the beard. Yeah, I'll grow a little bit out there again. I shaved it after everything. So yeah, the stubble, everything will come back. So yeah, we'll get the stash going back a little bit. So get the facial hair growing. But yeah, I thought that Waldron, I think this is also preseason, right? So I think that he purposely was trying to put some of that vanilla stuff out there. So yeah, Squeegee saying Shelton was quiet for first. Seems like he's more vocal now. Yeah, I think so. Good job, Shelton. Yeah. And then let's see, Greg saying backup, defensive backs, linebacker, and defensive ends look good. Yeah, let's go into these backups then, because Sanborn, first off, I thought Sanborn had a pretty good game. He made a couple big tackles. Now, there was one play where they kind of did a little screen. I thought that Sanborn, like, he kind of was trying to cheat in a little bit, thinking it was a run play, and he kind of cheated too much, so he sprinted back, and he literally turned his back, and that's when the screen ended up happening. So kind of takes a little kind of a knock on him. But I thought overall he played well. He got past a couple linemen, made a tackle for a loss. But then also Austin Booker. And now when you look at the Austin Booker stat line, I think he just has, 2 tackles? No quarterback hits, nothing like that. But what doesn't show up is just him whooping his guy constantly. Like, I literally have this giant list, like Booker got pressure on the inside. Booker got another good push on the inside. Booker dipped under his block to disrupt the play. Like, Booker still makes people miss, and he's just constantly fighting. Booker's just such a, absolutely love what he's able to do out there. Just Booker looked really good, just consistent, just a consistent player. So Booker, again, is on my stock up, even though that he didn't get sacks or anything like that. That's where, similar to the whole Caleb Williams thing, what you see in the stat sheet is not what you see out on tape. So let's see also Amen. Thought it had a very good game as well. So you're looking at his stat line, 6 tackles, 3 solo tackles, 1 pass defended. He had an interception, quarterback hit. Just very good play. And I thought, too, he looked really good in the running game as well. Just the first game in the Hall of Fame game, he was terrible. Like, there's no sugarcoating it. He looked awful. And then you looked at the last game in week 1, looked pretty decent. And then now this week, I thought Amen had a very good game, especially in run defense. He broke past a couple of his players. Like, there was one time, there was a tight end on him. He was able to kind of shed the tight end and make the play in the backfield. Then I also talked about Blackwell already. Thought that Blackwell had a good game. He just kind of everywhere. Like your Kyler Gordon light in that slot. That's what you want to see. Also Terrell Smith getting the pick. You saw him kind of cut in the route and was able to get the pick. So thought it was good. And then also Cowart, just want to call out Byron Cowart, the defensive tackle, just because was not out there last week, but was in there for a decent amount of snaps today, had a good stunt, and then ends up kind of breaking past a couple guys for not a sack, but at least was like making some disruptions. So thought he had a pretty good game. But if I'm talking about some backups that I just did not like, it's hard when you see Cowart out there and he plays well, and then you see some other defensive tackles, but like Zach Pickens, I just expect more. And I just don't see it. And it might just be my own personal thoughts on him. Like I want to see more, and I just don't see that next step. Like in one of the plays, it was literally him. Like for anyone that plays the new NCAA video game or just any football video game, if you use like your attacks, right, to like try and spin past or like do a rip, do whatever you can to get past your offensive lineman. And if the other one in front of you is better than you, you're just like looking like a buffoon trying to do all these actions, but you just can't get by him. That's what it looks like with Zach Pickens when he does a move. Like he just can't get past the guy, and then he just looks exhausted at the end of it. And that's what I see out of Pickens, where I'm like, come on, man. Because when you look at like, how could this defensive line get better? Where are the areas of improvement? I'm going like, well, Pickens is going to get a lot of snaps next year. Like this year, he's going to get a lot of snaps, and I just have not seen it. I just have not been impressed. Like Cowart is someone that I did not expect much from, but he's playing well in the preseason. Yet again, because you're going against backups. Like that's what it should look like. Like that's the way that Cowart plays against backups is the way that Pickens should kind of be playing against them, but we're just not seeing it. And then also too, Dominique Robinson, I know there's probably someone that is not happy with me saying that because they're like, wait a second, I saw 2 times where he was close to the quarterback and almost got a sack. I don't see any moves out of his game. I see him just trying to run, like he's just trying to run past people and just trying to run around people. And when he got close one time to getting a play, I know what that one person is thinking out there. If you watch the tape, he's just running, he just shoots the gap. Like last week, his big play was he shot the gap and made the play. Yet again, he made the play. But that's the thing is like you just want to see more out of him. You want to see more development, not just someone that can shoot the gap. That's why he has a career pass rush win rate of 4%. 4%. Like, I just wanted to see more out of his game, and it's just, I did not see much of it. We saw a lot of reps out of him. I just did not see that. So those are my 2, like, stock down, I'd say, for the from the defensive side of it. So let's see. Then next, what we have out there is the offense, but let me just go through some comments. Greg saying Pickens is slacking on year 2. Agreed. Shy Drax saying Hardy was great. I have him in the 4th string, the 3rd and 4th string. So the second half people. So yeah, we'll definitely talk about him. Shy Drax also asking when is first cut down. That is, so there's no more first cut downs anymore. So it's all one giant cut down. So after the last game, I think it's like on that Sunday, that's when they'll do a cut down. And then that Monday, we'll know the roster, or like they start trickling out like who got cut. I think it's actually, that Monday they start to like let people know who got cut. And then that's when you start kind of filling out the roster of, okay, who's on the team now? So it's a sad day for them, but it's an exciting day for us, not going to lie. Just to kind of say who's out there. Are the Bears going to pick people off on waivers and stuff like that? And Squeegee also asking, did Wheeler play? Yes, he did. We'll talk a little bit about that later. So On the offense, backup offense, we didn't see too much, but Tyson Bagent had a very good game. Like we mentioned, 7 of 8, 87 yards. Thought he had some very, very good ball placement. Thought he looked good. 2 touchdowns, 151 quarterback rating. Very good. Dante Pettis, too. Very good day receiving. 5 catches or 3 catches, 53 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Made some pretty good contested catches as well. The only thing that I will say about Dante Pettis, you can't go backwards on punt returns. -3 yards on his punt return. So literally I had him as my bad, and then I switched him over to good just because of his receiving. Because to me, the way he makes this roster is not through his receiving. It's through his punt returns. Like, it's through being a reliable punt returner. You can't be running backwards like that. But also the bad, Velus Jones at running back, 2.2 yards a carry at running back. Like I said, I didn't think that the run blocking was as good as we normally saw it, but still 2.2, no bueno. And also Travis Homer. Travis Homer, 2 carries. Travis Homer did not have a great game. 4 carries for 3 yards. Just whenever the ball's in his hands, I just don't expect anything to really kind of happen. So because of that, I just stock down for me. So that's kind of my feeling overall. But let's also, so that's my backups. That's just kind of my overall thoughts, but let's go into the last group because I want to break down the final group, which is our 4th stringers, our third stringers, 4th stringers, are people in the second half. And on the defense, this is when I'll bring up Hardy. I thought Hardy played well, and he's fighting out there. This guy is really, really fighting out there, and he comes away with another sack. And you just hear this guy's story too, just really trying to, just being a dog, just playing well, and he looked good. He had a very good spin move out there, and also too, polls even talked him up, saying that, he's really fighting, and that's where he might be a practice squad player. Kareem and him, I think, are going to be duking out for a potential spot on the, not on the 53, just because you start going into, well, what do they think of Jacob Martin? Jacob Martin being more of a veteran, I could see him just getting the nod over a Daniel Hardy, unless they just like, listen, Martin, he can't. Because keep in mind, like 2 or 3 weeks ago, Jacob Martin was all the talk, that Jacob Martin was looking good. He was getting in the backfield. And now he's been banged up, and now we just don't really hear about him because, yet again, he's banged up. So I thought Hardy, good game. Also Stroman, like I said before, good game. Also Micah Baskerville. Very good game. He darted in the backfield, made a couple big plays. Thought Baskerville yet again had a good game last week. Very good in coverage. This week, I thought he looked a little bit better in run defense. Just good overall plays. But also, shout out to Hutchins. Number 63 at the defensive tackle position. I was like, who's that little guy? And I thought he played well at the defensive tackle spot. And you're talking about people that would make this practice squad. I thought he looked really good. Yet again, he's going against third stringers, but he stood out over everyone else that was out there. He was at least looking a little disruptive. The only thing that he wasn't doing that I didn't love was it seemed like in the running game, he was getting pushed back. Smaller player. I just thought that he wasn't there. And I agree with J2K. Baskerville has taken advantage of Sewell being out. Yeah, Noah Sewell, right? We all forgot that name. We all forgot that name. That was the guy that was, people were saying was going to take Jack Sanborn's job last year. And now he's never on the field. And it's unfortunate because he's a fun player and I like the player. So I hope he can get healthy because I want to see him out there. But like we said, the backup linebacker spot was really up in the air. And Amen is like, no. Let's get it straight. I'm a veteran and I'm good. And he's playing well. And then you got Micah Baskerville going, wait, me too. I get to keep my job as well. And I thought Baskerville really showed it out there because now Noah Sewell, I think, is just going to be about, he's going to probably make the roster. If he gets cut, I'd be shocked. But Noah Sewell, how healthy are you, man? That's my big question. So that's what I'm thinking about with just this defense and just the good and bad. Last little bit too, Chroma, I'm specifically calling him out just because, he is someone that a lot of us had on our radar. Just does not look the part, really. So it's unfortunate. But Chroma just looked a little lost out there. So let's see. Little other things out there, too. Let me just go through. And actually, just to put the bow on it with the offense, like I said, Pettis, return for a loss, good catches, but then also Murray. Bill Murray, the left guard, a couple drives, saw him kind of put people on skates. So didn't really watch every single snap, like specifically on Bill Murray. Thought he played pretty darn well. So to me, just a couple drives looked good. And yet again, was playing more of that left guard out of anything. So that was my feeling. But let's see what we got out there. Squeegee said, fell asleep. Second half sucks. Second half sucks getting old. J2K saying Baskerville. Yeah, that one. And then Squeegee saying, I'd be surprised if we keep Hardy if he doesn't fit Poles' mold. I agree. I would be surprised too if we ended up keeping Hardy just because of you already kind of have like 5 people. Unless Dominic Robinson, they're like, listen, just we got to cut you. But to be honest, if you could actually do this with AI. I would say if you had an AI engine, you could do this with AI to replace Dominic Robinson with Daniel Hardy. Like if you just kind of watch their clips and you got the whole like, okay, Dominic Robinson being a physical freak out of the window. Daniel Hardy looks better. Hardy has done more than Robinson has against the same competition. Like, let's be honest here. He has looked better. So to me, yeah, like I think that Dominic Robinson out of anything, because I know we haven't talked about this on this show. We were in on the trade for Matthew Judon. So who would be the person that we end up cutting? I don't think it looks bad on DeMarcus Walker because you know what his role is. He's the run stuffer. He's not meant to be the pass rushing guy. Dominic Robinson, I think it looks bad because on Dominic Robinson, because who would get cut if they were to make that trade? It's not DeMarcus Walker. It's Dominic Robinson or, yet again, or Jacob Martin. Is there something weird with Jacob Martin where he's just going to be that guy out? But let's see. Sports Chicago style. What is good, my friend? Hope you're doing well. Also, Broski, what is good too? Saying Caleb's performance, very average. He's given it a C grade. Definitely wasn't dominant. Bears first half really struggled. And then let's see. Greg saying Hardy would be picked up if cut. Let's see out there too. And then Broski saying who started on the O-line. Believe it or not, Nate Davis was out there, Broski. And then Sports Chicago style saying Hardy over D-Rob. I agree. Like, I really do agree because, I don't know, Dominic Robinson, I don't see it, right? Like, I know that it's the potential. Yeah, but when eventually you got to be like, all right, this is who he is, right? This is who he is. So let's see. But yeah, Martin, yeah, so Jacob Martin, though, is just a little banged up. That's kind of the big thing. And then Don N saying, Sewell and Amagaji might be the 2 slots for this injured reserve. Yeah, to potentially come back. Yeah, that's a good call. I think definitely Amagaji just because I know that he's ramping back into things. But I don't think that he's going. Yeah, I'd be surprised if he ends up starting. I'd say like if I'm the Bears, I'd be like, yo, you just sit on IR for a little bit and you just come back. So I like that idea for sure. So let's see. And then Broski's saying, who started at center? Shelton. Yeah, Shelton. And I thought Shelton looked good. So he was actually one of my stock up people. I thought that he looked pretty darn good. So it's nice. And then, yeah, it's a good call too by J2K. When we're talking about people that have taken advantage of people being out, Shelton has really taken advantage of Bates being out. Because now, if Bates comes back and it's still a competition, I'm rolling my eyes at that. Like, I can't see that because Bates looked good. Bates was snapping it. And like we've said on the show, Bates is the true center. He snaps it faster. He snaps it quicker. Shelton is the true center. I think I said Bates is the true center. Shelton is the true center. Shelton snaps it faster. Shelton snaps it quicker. Shelton also snaps right-handed. Bates snaps left. That's right. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. One snaps left-handed, one snaps right-handed. That's different. So to me, let Shelton be the guy. So those are my stock up, stock down. Last little bit, special teams. Velus and Scott returning. It was nice to see Velus at least return it. I want to say last game too, after rewatching it, Velus, you could tell that it was Velus and Scott just kind of had a miscommunication on that fumble that he had. But yeah, Velus at least returned it, but the whole running back situation did not look very good. But then also, I like Blackwell returning punts as long as, because I don't expect much. So I thought Blackwell had a halfway decent return because he broke a tackle, got like 7 yards. He's not going to be an all-pro. He's not going to be an a Pro Bowler anytime. But if like I've said, if a defensive back can return a punt, I like that because then we don't have all these wide receivers that are just special teamers. Like I want my wide receivers to be wide receivers, not just special teamers, right? That is my piece. So let's see. Broski saying too. Good. Yeah. And then, Greg's saying, yeah, Karan is on NFI. That's right. And Broski's saying, yeah, been saying Shelton starting center. No reason to dance with Bates there. Yeah. Bates is good. Utility. Yeah. I think ultimately Bates being that will be good. Because that's really his role. Like that's who he is. So it seemed like when they traded, everyone was like, yeah, all signs were pointing that Bates was going to be that. But ultimately, like the video or you're a Packers fan. I like that, CZ. Thank you. Yeah, if someone doesn't like the video out here, someone doesn't drop a like, you might be a Packers fan. That might be what it ultimately ends up happening. So let's see. Let's talk about the last segment because we've been going hard for 50 minutes. 50 minutes. My light gave out for those that are new to the show right now. My light gave out, but now it's back up. So hopefully it stays out for the bear of the game. What do you guys think? Who is your bear of the game? Because a couple people out there. First off, like if I'm just going through the list, right? Your top runner was Khalil Herbert. I don't think it was that dominant of a performance. Roma Dunze had some good yards. I'm not giving it to Dante Pettis for receiving. I thought he played well. Tyson Bagent, I thought played well, like we said. But I think that it's easy. I think it's an easy selection. There was one person that just was dominant. Like, because when you talk about the player of the game, this is one that I think is just unanimous. And right there, let's see that. Overall, yeah, it's Kyler Gordon. Kyler Gordon was just so freaking good. So freaking good. Just with all the plays, all the explosiveness that he ends up doing, just really, really good. So Kyler Gordon to me, player of the game, easy, simple, just that's why he's got to be healthy. That's why, we just got to hope for some health. So Kyler Gordon, ultimately, player of the game. Screechy throwing up saying, why did you say Packer? Right? Yeah, it does. It does feel gross. It does feel gross saying that. So then Broski also asking the question, who is the top backup O tackle after Borum? See, that's the thing. Curhan is technically the backup. But that's where I don't like that. Like, I don't like that behind Borum. That's where Amagaji, hopefully he can do something. But that's where too, if you have him as your person that's on that IR spot that can be designated to come back, he has that practice window because he hasn't been able to really practice all that much. So hopefully he can at least kind of get started, kind of get going back into things. And then you can kind of have that slow ramp up because right now Curran is backing up right. Curran's kind of that, or I think honestly Borum might even be the technical backup because I think they might use Borum more as a swing tackle. And then Curran is just, he might not even make the team. We'll have to see how many offensive linemen they even want to roster at this point because everything has just been kind of shaken up a little bit. So we'll see. But Scottish Bear saying Amagaji due on pads next week. Yeah, that would be awesome. I didn't know that he was going to be in pads. That'd be great because I know that he has been ramping up. So hopefully, because I like Karan, and he's one of us. He's a Bears fan. Like, he's a true Bears fan. Like, he rips on his team, and he likes his Bears. So that's the thing. I like him. So hopefully we can get Karan out there because, man, we'll see. But let's see. Shadrack saying, Brad, I hope we hear from you soon after Thursday's Chiefs game. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the kind words. Like, yeah, don't worry. I'll try to have it live after Thursday. It'll be kind of crazy, but we'll get you all that. So if you haven't already, drop a like, subscribe out there on YouTube. And if you haven't, download the podcast. Just look for Unbearable Sports and you can get it everywhere you get your podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, everywhere. And with that, have a great rest of your weekend, everybody. Bear down and Unbearable Sports Podcast. We are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair and you know that she's a